So as a monopolistic competitor, how do we choose our profit maximizing output and price, right? So just like with the monopoly, we are not a price taker, but we're not quite as much of a price maker as monopoly, but we are somewhat of a price maker, right? Which is why our demand curve is less inelastic, or to not use a double negative, it's more elastic than the monopolistic demand curve. So in order to do this, we're going to have to create just some of our normal cost curves, right? So we've got our average cost curve. We've got our marginal cost. And now's where it gets a little tricky, because now we have a demand curve that is not as steep as before, but still downward sloping. And then a marginal revenue curve that is twice the slope. So once again, if this is down 3 and over 1, 2, 3, 4, we're just going to say it's this. Yeah, that works. Marginal revenue. Okay, so I put this profit maximizing rule in the top on a box for a reason, because we are still going to do that. Just because we're in a new market structure, just because the demand has become a little bit more elastic, this is a similar process, it's an identical process to determining the profit maximizing quantity and price as with the monopolist. We're going to find where the marginal revenue meets the marginal cost. We're going to drop an anchor down, right? Again, we want to think about this like dropping an anchor. And why do we want to think about it like dropping an anchor? Because this is nothing. This is not the price we're selling. This is not the cost that we're having to pay. This is literally telling us no information here. This price does not matter. So we drop an anchor to get our Q star, and then we go up to the demand, right? Because why wouldn't we? The demand is telling us how much people are willing to pay. So why would we not go up to that price and charge that amount of money? There's no reason, right? We are going to do that. So in this particular example from the book, this has a equilibrium quantity of 16 and a price of 4, and my computer died. That's fun. Nope. Okay. So equilibrium, a quantity of 40 and a price of 16. So we can label this point if we like, 40, 16. And given what we can see on the graph, what is going to be the profit or loss? Well, number one, will there be a profit or loss for this particular monopolistic competitor? A profit, right? Because the price is above the average total cost, right? So to use the words that we learned 3 chapters ago, there's a positive average profit, right? There's positive average profit to the tune of, yeah, I think it was, yep. Well, I'm trying to keep it according to the book as well. In the book, it looks like it's 2. And so this would be $14. That's our average total cost at 40. And so therefore this rectangle here is going to be our total profit, right? And this is going to be my price minus my average total cost times my quantity. Again, I should probably not use times. I should use that just to kind of keep things simple and clear. I don't know why I did that. And then this is going to be 16 minus 14 times 40. So this is 2 times 40. So this is 80. Dollars. Any questions on finding our optimal quantity, going up to the demand curve to find the price, and then labeling this profit rectangle and calculating the area of it? Okay. All right, so here's where the book kind of takes a shortcut. So I'm going to explain the shortcut to you, but then I'm also going to talk about what's really going on underneath the shortcut, because in my mind, people that are thinking things through all the way are going to see that there's some conceptual incompatibility with this next part of what the book is talking about. Okay, so the book has this shortcut. I'm going to explain why and kind of the underlying mechanism of the shortcut, because I think it's important. But you're not going to be tested on it, right? Which I know is like, key word for you guys to tune out. But please try not to tune out. Just because you're not tested on it doesn't mean it's not important. I think it's important for your conceptual understanding of it. Questions before we move on? Okay, cool. So but in a similar way to a perfectly competitive firm, right? If one, you guys can't see that very well. If one monopolistic competitor is earning positive economic profits, other firms will be tempted to enter the same market. So just like with perfect competition, there's not as much free information and free entry and exit, but there are no significant barriers to entry, and there's still some free information. So again, it's way closer to the perfectly competitive extreme than it is to the monopoly extreme. And so here's where the book makes this simplifying assumption that I'm going to explain to everybody. So the book says that the entry of other firms into the same general market shifts the demand curve. Right? We'll talk about this. That a mono-comp firm faces. So one of you said, and I'm sure a lot of you were thinking, because number of firms is a determinant of what? Supply, not demand, right? So this is straight up back asswards. So what's going on here? So what's really going on here is that this is a simplification. there really is, so it's essentially going, the number of sellers increases, which then causes supply to shift outwards. Oh, I shouldn't use that again. So supply to shift up or out. And then supply shifting up or out is going to cause a new, you can kind of think of it as a new starting equilibrium price. And so this will be clear, I think, once we do a little bit of graphical interpretation. So we start off with a situation like this. And then in our perfectly competitive firm, so remember this is a monocomp firm right here, right? But in a perfectly competitive firm, this equilibrium price, because they're price takers, would just go straight out, right? This is not a perfectly competitive firm. So instead, it's starting at that equilibrium price, and then through their powers of product differentiation, they are able to create a bit of inelasticity in their curve. So this is the initial demand curve, and then when there's a shift outwards of supply, that shifts the demand curve down. Does that make sense now to everybody? Why the increase in the number of sellers is going to decrease our demand curve? It's because of this kind of behavior here. So the book kind of just fast forwards through that process for you. But I think it's important for us to remember that it's a very similar process to what's going on with the perfectly competitive firms, right? It's the interaction and the dynamic between the market supply and demand curves and how that relates to the individual firm demand curves.
Yeah, because when you said it initially, I thought we were talking about this, the market graph. We were talking about the firm.
We're talking about the firm, exactly. Yes, yes, yeah. That's why I think kind of going a little bit in depth in this section is helpful. Questions on that? So again, the reason why it's downward sloping is because they have some market power. They have some price making power. They're not completely flat like the perfectly competitive firms were, who were price takers. All right, so let's talk about, well, let's pause real quick.